for the video anyway. All right, here we go. Hey guys, welcome to Esports in the Metaverse, episode 1. I am Street Taco Eater, Rob Davis. I appreciate you being here. Please make sure right out of the gate, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow all the socials because this show is going to be done 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time to 8 p.m. Central Time. So that being said, please make sure that you subscribe, that you follow, that you get notifications because we put out a lot of content about this. Tonight, we're going to talk about 4 separate things. We're going to talk about a little bit of, more than that, 4 things that we're going to talk about specifically with Metaverse and esports. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a history as to where I come from, why I'm the guy, why the need for this show and the things that we're going to explore, and why I have the perspective that I have and the passion and excitement I have for esports in the Metaverse. Now, you on TikTok have already heard this, so be patient. That being said, we're also going to get into the 4 major obstacles that we have to address that the world, the tech world, and the social world and everyone has to address in this adoption of esports into the Metaverse, let alone the Metaverse itself. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about some very specifics. Each of the episodes going forward, I'm not just going to give you kind of my opinion. We're going to get into a lot of data. We're going to get into a lot of information so that you can clearly see as we go over this next year, especially, because there's a lot happening, who the players are, what the moves are, what you should be looking at, what you shouldn't pay attention to, what's going to happen, what does it mean, and all kinds of spectrums. So I'm going to make sure that we cover, I don't always do great with notes, but I'm going to make sure for this show that I'm keeping really good notes so that we stay on track because there's so much to cover. Okay, let me start off with just this in the beginning. Number 1. I come with an experience of gaming from 1978, and the tech world, my involvement in the tech world has been immersed throughout all that time until now. So let me give you a little bit of history. 1978, my uncle bought me an Atari for home TV Pong system. That was the first game system I ever had. So to date myself, 1978, I would have been 15, I think, when I got it. I sat for hours, like many people did, playing Pong. Every iteration of games after that, I worked at a pizza place shortly after, and they had Asteroids and Galaga were my 2 games. I spent endless hours in arcades during that time, right? Until the mid 80s or so when arcades kind of took a dive because Nintendo came out with game systems. Other people were coming out with game systems, and game systems took over. And then we, of course, got married. We've played games. I've had every iteration of game. But let me back up just a little bit. I had my first computer job in 1981. This is going to be important so that you understand the perspective that I have, because it's not just about the tech experience, it's about the behavior that I watched and saw change as people started to adopt and experience different kinds of tech. Okay, so this history lesson, bear with me. We'll only do this in this first episode, and then we're going to get into some nitty gritty. So 1981, I was working in a factory that actually made the aluminum bodies for Apple II computers. Shortly after that, by 1983, I was working in my first computer store. In the days when MS-DOS and CP/M were kind of fighting out for who was going to rule the world, right? Now we know it was MS-DOS. When there were clone computers to the Apple, we sold Franklin computers against the Apple IIe. Then shortly after that, by 86, I was working for Computerland in San Diego, California. And I was doing sales, I was doing repairs. Back in the days when the IBM PC, you could put a slot, a board into a slot to make sure that if you wanted to upgrade your processor, those kinds of things. TikTok, I am watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about. This is Esports in the Metaverse, episode 1. Okay, now, so I remember the days. I have seen through all of those years. Let's just back up again. I've seen the implementation of a personal computer. I have seen, even from word processors, right? In high school, I learned to type on a typewriter, and then later came word processors, and then personal computers. I'm not going to give all that history. I'm just saying that I got to experience all of that. All of this tech revolution that was happening. Pagers, to cell phones. I remember the days of the brick cell phones that only contractors had in their trucks, right? That were super expensive. And then you saw people, execs in their big BMWs with the cell phones, and I saw all that. And then all the way to, I remember sitting in 1988, sitting in front of a Mac for the first time watching the internet and being blown away at the internet and the fact that the internet was able to have weather and stocks and things from all over the world. I'd never seen anything like that. And I was sold. I was all in. I couldn't wait to see how that was going to go. And that was back in the days. Obviously, you guys know about dial-up modems. You know about all the other all that stuff. You get that. The point I'm making is in watching that evolution and every one of those steps up until that point, even till the internet, there was so much apprehension, so much opposition in many ways. In the early days, it was not as strong as it is now because people really didn't see the potential reach of that technology. It was so fresh. It was so limited. Computers were used largely to do things like take care of your books, your accounting, write some letters or documents for school. That kind of stuff is pretty limited. So the opposition wasn't as much. Then as things began to expand, let me fast forward again. 1995, I have my first online business. Now, I want you to understand, too, that since 1978, I have been continuously involved in gaming from the early 80s of arcades to my time, as a youth working in a pizza place with Asteroids and Galaga, right? I spent countless hours to another job I had that the corner gas station had Mortal Kombat, right? The console, big machines. I played there endless hours during lunch breaks and other breaks with buddies. And even to the time I got my first PC game, from the days of Doom to the days of World of Warcraft to all of it, I have played through all of those years and iterations and been immersed in what the potential was with gaming, not just from a technical thing that it was so fun to do, but the social interaction and all the memories and all the relationships and things that are built. So that'll be another episode, by the way. We'll do another big episode on that. Okay, now let's keep moving forward in this technology progression because it is important that you understand why I have the perspective that I have. And I don't mean I talk a lot with my hands. I maybe I shouldn't do that so much. I keep them down here. Okay, so when we fast forward into the mid 90s and I see what the internet's really doing, I have my first internet business. You can go look up Corey Rudel. Unfortunately, he died in Riverside, California, not far from where I lived at the time, in a car crash on the racetrack, Riverside Raceway. Corey Rudel, RUDL. He sold an internet marketing, internet sales business. I bought that course. I had internet businesses, and I've had internet businesses from that time forward. So my perspective is less about the technology and more about the privilege that I've had to be able to experience each of those steps of evolution and watch them go at scale versus someone who's just kind of like our kids grown up in it. Okay, so why is that important to understand that evolution took place? It's important to understand because for me, it gave me insight and experience as to what the potential pathways for all of those different things were, because I lived through them. Now, if we fast forward to today and this show, why am I going to do this show? This show is happening because esports has a perfect opportunity, a perfect storm opportunity to reside in what's going to be, in what we're talking about now, the metaverse. It is built for it in every way, okay? That, I'm telling you, and I get lots of opposing opinions on that, but it is actually the case. We are 100% going to see esports live in the metaverse. Now, let's get into some of the high-level topics of discussion and things that I hear day in and day out when we talk about the metaverse, because we have essentially three camps of people when it comes to the metaverse, let alone esports, okay? One camp is, I'm scared to death this is going to create some kind of strange dystopian environment and, what's the world going to turn to? Number two are the people that are like completely indifferent because they really don't understand or get what the metaverse even potentially is. I have people I talk to every day and I tell them, what's the best thing I can think of? I tell them, Ready Player One. right? That's kind of what I would just say, go watch that. There are lots of other examples, and we know that it's much more comprehensive and much more sophisticated than that, but that at least gives them a bit of a perspective. And then the final group are the ones like me that are seeing full force what the potential of this is going to be. Okay, now that potential comes with 4 big obstacles, and we're going to talk about those at a high level tonight, but those 4 obstacles have to be addressed. Okay, in ongoing episodes, as we continue going forward, we're going to get immersed into everything that has to do with the metaverse, what the problems are, what the solutions are, who the players are, who the things that you should be absolutely paying attention to and the things that you should be avoiding. So this next year, let's even take it, let's say right now, stick with me through the end of this year and watch how things evolve. Okay, let's talk again. Let's go very high level, okay? Sorry, Siri thinks I'm talking to her. Let's go very high level. Number one, let's at least be realistic that we're probably 5 years away from seeing significant changes, okay? So it's not something that's going to happen today. That being said, there is a lot of stuff going on that is going to could make that happen much faster. So it don't not pay attention to what's coming, but understand if you're really wanting to be immersed in this thing we're going to call the metaverse and esports being involved, that we're 5 years before it becomes very commonplace. Okay, now that being said, there are some significant hurdles, okay? And we're going to get into those a little bit right now. So one of the number one hurdles is you've got to have hard tech, right? So there's this, and it's interesting because what you'll find is that software, I should have put software and soft tech first. Software always drives hardware innovation, right? Because hardware has a hard time keeping up with what software developers can create and expect. So processor speeds and internet bandwidth and all the other things that go along, software almost always drives hardware. But there are some very basic things. You know what? Before we get into hardware, let's talk about this. There are some conceptual things. Remember, I talked about 3 groups of people: the people that are complete opposition because they're afraid we're going to create a dystopian, society and we're going to lose touch with humanity and all of that. The people that are indifferent because they don't get it, don't even pay attention to it right now. And then those like me that want to be very immersed in it and see what it's going to bring. And again, when I gave you kind of that idea, the history lesson of where I come from, I think my perspective is pretty broad and pretty experienced, because I've seen the effect of technologies all the way across. But that being said, you know what? I'll get into that in number 3. I'm not going to talk. Let's just get back to kind of hard tech. Okay, in the hard tech side of things, you have number one issue is right now currently a lot of metaverse experience hardware-wise is with big goggles, right? Now we already see. The next iteration is very clear because they're being built on the horizon. In this episode, we won't get into all the tech. This week, we'll probably get into like hard technology things and the players in that industry and that field and what's coming, what's here, and what things you can expect. But overall, this has kind of been the experience. And with the handles, it's a bit clunky, but it works. It's fun. Those of you that have experienced it know that it's a blast. But what you're seeing already is the evolution with glasses, okay? And I'm going to apologize for a second because my allergies have been driving me absolutely crazy, so I apologize for that. Okay, glasses are the next evolution. So now you're not going to have big, clunky goggles. You can have glasses. What will that turn to? I don't know. Will it be contacts in some point? Will you even have a need? Will it be some kind of holographic thing that can come off of a watch or something? I don't know. We're going to absolutely follow every trend, but here's what we do know with technology. It's going to get more sophisticated, easier to use, faster, less expensive. All of that is going to happen. How do we know that? Because we have seen the technology evolve from the time of the first personal computers all the way till now, from the time of the first internet all the way till now, from the time of the first sophisticated PCs and computing power ability, gaming systems and all that until now. Everything has gotten more sophisticated, more powerful, less expensive, right? Outside of the bleeding edge of stuff. So we know that hardware technology, so that's one part. That's the user experience. On the other side of it, there's already a lot of hardware that is in place because we're talking about Metaverse, Web 3.0, blockchain, all those kinds of things. There's a lot of hardware that's already in place that's going to be easily adapted to handle this new load. Okay, so again, we're going to talk more hardware in episodes coming up. We'll get very specific again about who the players are, about what the tech is, how far away we are from it, and all of that. Now, when we talk about software, this is where, and we have two more besides that. We have hardware, software. We're going to talk about the revenue model. It's going to be a big issue. And then the adoption and kind of the social expectations. Now, software. I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the software side of it, and I actually have some more sophisticated notes. So in the software side, because I'm saving the best for last, the thing I really, really, really want to talk about is adoption and social behaviors. But let's get some of the boring stuff out of the way. Okay, Web 3.0. Let me go over here really quick, and I'm going to share a couple of things. If you don't know what Web 3.0 is, think of it this way. Social media and social programs and platforms were essentially Web 2.0. We went from having in Web 1.0 flat digital, kind of websites where you could read data, you maybe get into a page or two, to Web 2.0 that became great. Yes, thank you. I do need to go back to the difference between VR and AR. Thank you. That's a bonus. That you rock. That's one thing I forgot to put in my notes. So let's step back just a second because this is a great point that was brought up on TikTok. AR and VR, we need to talk about the differences here because it does play into all the effects of hardware, software, all the monetization, and all of the tech. You rock for bringing that up. Okay, AR, augmented reality, right? Versus VR, virtual reality. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Augmented reality is when you can have right now, you can actually get glasses. Google makes some. There are several manufacturers where you actually can put on a pair of glasses and experience different environments in an augmented way. In other words, let's just say, you are at a park that has a lot of historical monuments. Instead of you just physically going and reading monuments that have been placed there, you can put on augmented reality glasses and have someone that in a software recognizes your geolocation and brings up more interactive information through augmented reality than you would have just by walking through it. It gives you a completely different and more immersive experience than you would normally have. So that's AR, that's augmented reality, and there are lots of versions of that. Now, virtual reality, on the other hand, is you in a virtual space. So think about Ready Player One, think about Fortnite, think about World of Warcraft. Think about Decentraland. We'll get into a lot of those in upcoming episodes. Think about any time where you have some kind of an avatar that lives or moves or interacts in a virtual environment, right? So if you're a gamer, you understand it's very natural. So that's the basic difference. I'm trying to keep this really high level before we dive into in future episodes. So number one, AR, augmented reality. And that's a tech and software application that's a little bit different, but still ties in. VR, virtual reality. What's really important to understand, and this is critical. So again, I'm trying to stick to notes, but I also want to make sure that we get some of these really important points. This whole, we're going to save that for number 4. I'm sorry. That's going to get into a topic of human behavior. Okay, so that's AR, that's VR. Next, let's talk about more of this software tech. So Web 3.0. Let me just give you a couple. I'm going to read a couple of things here. This is from an article from makeuseof.com. So the headline says Web 3.0 is the next phase of the internet's evolution, but what technologies does it need to succeed? And this is really important when we talk about software adaptation. Number one, a semantic web. Okay. One of the things that's very problematic right now, even as exciting as the metaverse is, and even as powerful as it's going to be, is that if you think about what's happening in metaverses, it's really not a decentralized experience. It's really silos, right? You know, big grain silos, you know what I'm talking about? It's really a siloed experience. There are a lot of metaverses and things that are like metaverses that are being built and that people are experiencing. But a true metaverse and the way that it's going to generate power is not an isolated experience. For example, if I'm in Decentraland, I can't necessarily take the things that I buy or earn or get and use that in another metaverse. Or if I, for example, let's say that Overwatch 2 now is a metaverse game in the future, right? And you can create things like NFTs. Let me make it more simple. I'm going to make this sound really complicated, but it's not. Let's say I'm in a metaverse somewhere, Decentraland, the sandbox, whatever it is, and I create or buy some really cool shoes, NFT digital shoes, something that I wear, like you would wear a skin in Fortnite, or you would have, you know, a different character, weapon decoration, whatever. Imagine that you can create that, but then take those shoes with your avatar to some other metaverse. Right now, that's very problematic. Right now, it really can't be done. The reason being is that the technology of that decentralization, that software really hasn't developed yet. It's going to. But I want to make this point. So right now, the power of the metaverse and the opportunity to go from metaverse to metaverse to metaverse is definitely what has to happen. And it's why you see these silos. And it's going to turn into our next number 3 thing we'll talk about tonight. And that is the revenue model and some things that are happening that should happen, will happen, all of that. Okay. So if you understand that the broad spectrum of the metaverse is going to be an opportunity for you to engage with your avatar in some environment, but be able to go with that avatar and all the things you gain and earn to another environment and enjoy it just as well. Sorry, I'm scratching my nose. My allergies are killing me. But there are some software things that have to come into play here. Now, one of the things, I'm going to keep making this point, going forward in episodes, we're going to dive deeply into a lot of very specific things. Right now, I want to give you a very broad overview of what I'm going to cover and why I come to this conclusion and whatnot. Okay, software, the semantic web. That's just another thing. If you go look up semantic, I'll read you one quote about what the semantic web is. Ideally, data on different applications should be linked in such a way that creates new use cases for users. For example, rediscovering pictures and music on a calendar shows what you were doing and listening to on a particular date. This interaction, and there's a lot of people, I'm not talking about the fearful issues of privacy. I'm talking about things that you do in one place to another that can be cohesive and connected so that when you experience one location of a metaverse to another location of a metaverse to some other completely different type of experience, it's connected in a way. So the semantic web, the software development side of that will happen very, very quickly. Much more quickly than the hardware will. Let me move to the next one, decentralized technology. So we talked a little bit about this, and this is really, really, really critical. The decentralization is a challenge right now, and it bleeds into number 3, the revenue model. And I will get to that, but I want to go back to this real hard focus. Right now, the metaverses and the things that are being created, like I said, are still silos. They don't talk. It's kind of like, hey, it's really cool. You can do all these things on your iPhone, but you really can't do them on your Android and share very effectively in the way that it really could or should be, the way that an iPhone talks to an iPhone, to an iPad, to a Mac, right, or Android, to other devices on those platforms. The metaverse is no different. Whether it's VR or AR, it's the same kind of It's a challenge that has to be overcome in a very, very big way and very quickly, because the appeal of the metaverse is its decentralization. So what do we mean by decentralization? Let's talk about that just for a second. I'll read you another quote here. And this is what it says. Peer-to-peer networks and blockchains are among the key decentralized technologies used to create the new decentralized web. And that's a big part of what Web 3.0 is going to be. Peer-to-peer networks have been around since the 90s, allowing groups of computers to act as nodes to share files. Peer-to-peer networks will gain more relevance in the Web 3.0 era. One other thing, blockchain networks, while newer, have been used to leverage the power of peer-to-peer networks. The Web 3.0 blockchain uses principles of peer-to-peer technology and integrates cryptography and consensus algorithms to scale systems of decentralization among larger groups of people. That's what needs to happen. Decentralization is an amazing thing. And you can go look up different variations of what people think Web 3.0 is, but a lot of it is going to be this decentralized idea that's protected by cryptography, right? Okay, let's keep moving forward because we got a lot to talk about. 3D interactive web technology. I think that's a given, right? You understand that you want to have an experience in the metaverse that is three-dimensional. And I can tell you there are experts, again, we'll talk about these kinds of things in future episodes, but there are experts that go into great detail about the fact that physiologically, you will be able to experience the metaverse years down the road, maybe decades down the road, and won't be able to interpret in your brain. Your brain will take it as being a real experience as much as me standing here in the studio right now. So those kinds of things are where it's headed. And 3 dimensions is obviously what needs to happen in a very big way. But you also have the hardware limitations right now, the bandwidth limitations, and a lot of the software to make that happen because it is hugely data intensive. Okay. Let me read one more quote here from this. There's a huge possibility that virtual identities will become as popular as email addresses and mobile phones one day. It's really incredibly important to understand what that really means. Think about the days, if you're old enough, and most of you may not be, before you ever had an email address. An email address became an identifier, and now your social presence becomes an identifier, right? So think about for a second, when someone says, how do I reach you? Go to my Instagram. Or, it used to be send me an email. Now your interaction with avatars in a 3D metaverse type of an environment is going to be how people are just going to know to contact you and interact with you. So it's really important. Virtual identity management systems will help to manage details of identity and avatars of users. Furthermore, the viral identity information could be shared across relevant client programs to allow for immersive 3D experiences on different web spaces. You have to, before we even get into the whole esports side of things, you have to understand that this is where things... sorry, my allergies, I'm telling you, it's terrible. This is where everything is going to go. As much as you are comfortable using your phone to reach out to people, to interact on social media, you're going to find that 3-dimensional metaverse experiences with an avatar is going to be that next iteration. That's how you're going to interact with the web. The days now of going to web pages will be gone, and you will actually take an avatar into a site and interact in a much, much different way. It's just a matter of time. Okay. It talks about virtual museums and all kinds of things that you can do right now, but it's much bigger than that. And then we will talk about esports as well. Okay, now let's talk about one other big factor of the software side of things, and that kind of will get us into the next one. The social experience that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and just go down the line, the social experience that has been created is very natural, 100 times more than what I saw with people that realized they could text message, and how quick that was and how abbreviated it was. The social experience is what's really now driving a huge part of this metaverse and this Web 3.0 development, and is why esports is so positioned perfectly to take advantage of it. In all the right ways, and some will do it in the wrong ways. When we have the social interaction through social media platforms currently, that's really a 2-dimensional interaction. Most of it is you browsing, and kind of going through and seeing what people are doing, and then you maybe posting something. It's not as an engaging experience as the term that I coined a couple of years ago, called Engagertainment. It's entertaining to watch. We watch a lot of TikTok videos. We read tweets. We respond to them. We look at comments. We comment on YouTube videos, whatever it is. But it's a consumption. It's a production and consumption versus live streaming like this right now. So for example, when one of my TikTok viewers said, hey, you should probably explain AR and VR, that's an engaging experience in the way that now it's entertaining and engaging, thus it's engagertainment. Social media is dying for the next level of interaction and engagement. And that's what Web 3.0, that's what the Metaverse, that's what all these things we're talking about with avatars is going to bring. Now, I'm going to save it for the last one. Let's get into some things that I'm very, very concerned about. And these are going to be very, very important issues to address. They're getting addressed right now. If you know me and my content and you follow me at all, you understand that I am hyper protective of the gaming community. I think that gaming is one of the most, by its genetic makeup, if you will, the most welcoming, the most accepting, the most non-judgmental community. Though I understand the level of toxicity, I get that there's trolls and there's a lot of awful stuff going on. We're addressing that as well. But I want to make the point that in our community, I don't care where you come from. I don't care your political, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is that you love the game I love to play, or that you love the game that she loves to play, or you love the game they love to play. And that we have that in what's the word that I'm looking for? We have that in common. Right? And gaming is just by genetic makeup so powerful because we have that. Now, I mention that because I am so protective of the gaming community. So when we talk about esports moving to the metaverse, if you have followed esports at all and the content that I've been doing in esports for the last few years, and from opening Delta V Esports to my time at the esports Stadium Arlington to the things I've done at Techport, if you've seen any of my stuff, you understand that I'm concerned about exploitation and concerned about the short perspective of where esports can go. And for the last number of years, COVID really put a big hit on it. But for the last number of years, esports has been more of a hot topic because there's sizzle. And you see a lot of organizations like universities, colleges, different places that want to bring esports in, but many of them bring it in for the wrong reason. It becomes more of a marketing tool. It becomes hey, we have a great esports venue, you should go to college here, when they really don't give a care about esports. I can tell you, I went to a campus not far from here, a beautiful esports venue that they built out, and it's just a ghost town almost all the time. And that is just sad to me because they're not addressing the needs of esports the way that could really leverage benefit, in my opinion. And then there are a lot of schools and a lot of businesses doing it right. UC Irvine, I'm from Southern California, amazing esports program. A lot of universities and colleges around the world that have amazing esports programs. A lot of people doing fantastic work in the high school and middle school and lower. There's a ton of people doing a ton of great work because the power to advance skills, to advance interactions, to have career opportunities, all that stuff you guys know that I'm way behind is so, so powerful. But I'm still very concerned about what the potential of the metaverse, esports, and all of that is going to bring for people that come in and just exploit. Now, again, in future episodes, we're going to do a deep dive into all of that along the way. So I was going to go off on another rabbit hole, and I'm not going to do it. So I'll probably have to edit that out. Okay, so the revenue models are vast and varied, and they're partly limited now because of the silo kind of effect. But let me give you some perspective. So I looked up, Ariana Grande did a Fortnite concert, as did Travis Scott, Marshmello. So Fortnite, I did a piece of content recently that said Fortnite is really a metaverse. And as a metaverse, it provides reach at scale that you otherwise couldn't get. Now, Ariana Grande's had from ticket sales and merchandise, if I remember the numbers, about $650,000 or $680,000 per concert of her last tour. The sales generated in her one Fortnite concert she did was $20 million. Now, you can go look up all the data. Again, we're not going to dig deep into things in this first episode. I want to give you just high-level understandings. Why is that so important? Now, it's important because it's not a replacement. And I really want to get into this number 4, adoption. It's not a replacement for an experience of being live, but what it is opportunity of economy of scale, in 2 reasons. This is why esports and gaming will thrive in the metaverse and why it'll be so powerful. So when you think about the economy of scale, the cost to produce a concert for Fortnite is significantly less than the cost involved in creating however many stops it was on Ariana Grande's world tour. The costs involved to do that versus a concert in the metaverse, with the ratio of revenues generated to the ratios of revenues generated in each one, is not even comparable, because the reach is so much more vast. So for example, Saturday night, 2 of my boys who are musicians went to the Coldplay concert here locally in Texas. And amazing experience. They were blown away. It was a great show. And one of my sons, we were talking about it last night, Mother's Day, they were all over here. And he said, I just don't think the metaverse, he says, as a musician, I can't see myself ever performing in the metaverse, because that experience of being live was so amazing. So I'll get into that part of it again in the last segment here before we finish tonight. But the point that I made to him was, but it doesn't mean you stop doing live shows. It simply means that your reach. So for example, how many people on the Coldplay World Tour are going to get to attend, either 1, because it's, expensive, 2, it's not a venue close to them, versus the metaverse, which will allow someone like Ariana Grande or Travis Scott or Marshmello did to be able to be anywhere with a mobile phone or a computer and have access to engage in that experience more than a live stream. I'm not talking about just watching a video of it. I'm not talking about pay-per-view live streams, which are great. I'm talking about having an avatar in that experience that is the next step. And it's a distant step now, but it won't be forever, to actually physically being in the venue. Okay? That economy of scale is why. I want you to understand this point, this very clearly. That economy of scale is why esports will thrive in the metaverse. Okay? It's not just economy of scale for developers, for industries, for different, endemic and non-endemic. It's also for the creators and the longevity of experience that you can have and value of that experience. Let's just I wasn't going to talk about this, but let's just talk about, in this economy of scale, I may go to a Coldplay concert, have an amazing experience, and I have a ticket. I may get a shirt, have some video, and it's just great. And that's cool. But imagine that I can have something that I can go and I can get an avatar. What's up, Jake? I see your message there. Imagine that I can have an avatar that gets an NFT, gets some like a jacket from a concert in a metaverse, and I can wear that jacket to my next concert in my next metaverse. That's an experience at scale that allows me to not have to physically travel somewhere, but to actually be able to flex, right, my social prowess by having this NFT, having this digital avatar piece of whatever it is in all kinds of experiences. And so the economy of scale to do that is just incredible, because now you have the reach and the financial opportunity for creators, participants, developers, industry is shared. And that's largely not shared in the traditional world. So again, that's a big, big reason, if I made sense with that, and we'll go into more detail in the future, if I made sense with that as to why esports will thrive. Okay, now, we've got about 12 minutes left. So I want to make sure we get to this point, because this is critical. And probably the biggest point why I gave you a history lesson in terms of where I've come from and what my perspective is going forward. Adoption. Adoption to this is a major hurdle because it's new. So every time I saw a piece of technology come out, I can tell you as a simple example, the people that used typewriters, the thought of using a word processor just seemed very foreign to them until more and more people started talking about how powerful this word processor was. And if you were a writer, if you were a journalist of some kind, if you were an author, if you were writing school papers, you quickly understood, because so much buzz was going on around it, not just by the excitement of it, by the practical nature of it, and saying, wow, I don't have to white out. I don't have to throw away a piece of paper. I can create more documents faster and have a digital copy of it and be able to transport it and share it. So it took people's experience and then sharing that experience to really get people to adopt it. Because again, people are terrified oftentimes of new things. Now, amplify that feeling, that sociological, psychological, physiological experience with how quickly technology now advances. We've gone from typewriters to word processors, from word processors to the internet, from the internet to the metaverse. I mean, the things that are happening are going so quickly, and it can be terrifying. However, what you're going to start to see, so I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of artists and musicians about the benefits of NFTs, blockchain, the security, the fact that now it puts creators in the driver's seat much more than they've ever been to be able to generate and create revenue. And those conversations will start to take place more and more and more and more. But let's also talk about some of the things that have caused fear and some of the things that cause excitement. Number one, when Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, we're changing Facebook's name to Meta, catastrophe, because anyone in the decentralized channel kind of mindset like I am, anyone in the Web 3.0 and all of that, not to mention the power that Facebook wields, okay, became kind of terrified, because the thought of someone like Facebook monetizing the way they did social media, the metaverse, and having whatever controls and guidelines and boundaries that they feel like need to be there is a major, major, major potential problem, because it's not what it really should be. And I don't know that Mark Zuckerberg or the staff at Facebook or any other big tech company right now really has the understanding outside of, look, let's be honest. I shouldn't get into these kinds of discussions, but I'm going to. You know, Facebook is a monolith, right? And I'm grateful for all the power and the things that Facebook has done. But, you know, it gets to a point where they're losing people by the droves. They're losing a ton of money. The whole Meta announcement lost them in one quarter, I think $210 billion or 210 million, whatever it was, some enormous number. And so people are hesitant at the experience and power that big tech companies have leveraged with the idea of it now having control in this metaverse. Now, what I think is going to happen, and you can mark my words and you can look at this down the road, but what I think is going to happen is that it's going to be a natural evolution, because here's the difference. Unlike a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, where we post content and we have to consume ads, right? We're in control to a degree, as we've seen with a lot of news things. I don't get into these discussions, but if there are actually controls, like Elon Musk buying Twitter and saying we need to make it a free speech, we need to take limitations off and all the bias out. That's what I'm most excited about happening in the metaverse and happening with a decentralized kind of an experience, because it now really puts us in the driver's seat, right? So getting back to the point 3 a little bit, let me touch on that again about the revenue models. This is what I think we're all fearful of. We're fearful of how these big tech companies or a lot of other industries are going to want to come in and simply monetize and potentially exploit what is happening in the metaverse or what's going to happen. I'm very concerned, and I'm not concerned, because I think it's going to be a very natural evolution. Because unlike a Facebook or other social media platforms where we feel like, well, I'll just stop watching, I just won't, or I won't post, I won't, whatever, you do, because you're very engaged and you have an experience. And even if you leave a platform, you typically don't leave them all. But I really believe that the metaverse is going to give us, with decentralization, with cryptography, with all of the economy of scale opportunities for everyone involved, I think we're really in the driver's seat. Now, let's wrap up a little bit here, and let me make sure that you understand my perspective again. And we'll conclude with the whole esports side of it. Esports, I'll give you an example. I was doing some filming, if you follow my content, at the Techport Arena in San Antonio, an amazing facility. I haven't been down there since it opened, but just this last weekend, I think they did the Overwatch 2 with 2 top esports teams down there. Now, that venue is very sophisticated, 7.1 surround sound, it seats 3,500 people, and it's not just an esports thing. It is a ton of other tech stuff. It's a very, very amazing venue. But again, it's still a limited experience for those that get to go there. I'm grateful that those are there. And on the behavior side, please understand, I'm not one that says you will replace your physical experiences because the metaverse will be better. There's nothing like a physical face-to-face experience or being physically present somewhere. So don't think I'm in the camp of let's all live in the metaverse. What I'm saying is that I hope that those physical experiences go on for a very, very long time because there isn't anything like it. The energy, the excitement, but it's so limited to what I think the experience should be for people that are fans of different teams, of different games, for that esports experience, because it's not like watching a live stream. I should say the metaverse is not like watching a live stream or a recorded video. Live streams currently right now, I'm a huge live stream guy. I think that live stream is where 99% of people's efforts should go right now. You know, TikTok live, Instagram live, YouTube live, LinkedIn live, all of those kinds of things. It's critical because it elevates the experience you have with a creator or an event because it becomes engagertainment. You can chat in real time. You can have a response from the person that you're interacting with or that event, like a Fortnite, having your avatar in there for a live concert. You get to bounce around and dance and be involved in that. That to me is what's incredibly powerful. So no one has to feel like, oh man, I wish I could go to that live concert or that live esports event, but I can't. Well, I'll watch it on live stream and that's cool. That's great. So please don't think, I had someone say, yeah, but you're just you don't understand how powerful live streaming is. I do. I've been live streaming for a long time, but it's going to be different than what's going to happen in the metaverse. It's going to be very different. It's going to be a level of engagertainment that is unprecedented. So just in concluding, as we wrap up, the things that I wanted you to understand, I wanted you to understand my history and why my perspective is so dedicated to the fact that we are going to bring esports into the metaverse and it's going to thrive there because we already get that experience. We've already lived in metaverses in most whatever games you play, especially online games. You know what it's like to be in there with an avatar. We haven't even gotten into all of the sandbox and Decentraland and all those kinds of things. Those are coming in episodes. The fact that that's going to happen is why I'm so excited. We have hurdles to overcome, right? We have hardware hurdles to overcome. We have software hurdles to overcome. We have decentralization to overcome. We have acceptance and adoption to overcome. But it will all come in phases very easily. It will happen. And what I'm most excited about by far is the simple fact that we are going to be in more control of that experience than ever before. We're going to be in control. If you saw me, I posted a piece of content. I am a huge pay-to-play or free-to-play advocate. And so let me kind of conclude with this. Free-to-play is a very powerful model. I don't mean pay to play. I don't mean paying money because you have it to advance a skill, get a better car, a better gun, a better experience. I'm saying that free to play, I think all games should be free to play. Take something like Fortnite, since we've been talking about Fortnite. Fortnite's a free to play game. It puts me in the driver's seat to be able to say, man, I love playing this game so much, I may buy a battle pass. I'm going to support a creator and buy a skin. It demands that the person providing, the company providing, the creator, to provide such an outstanding experience that I'm enticed to spend more money. Now, it only works at scale. That's why the metaverse and esports is going to be so powerful. It's why some companies, have such a hard time going from a buy my software game to a free to play, because buy my game or pay my subscription is very good for investors, and it's because it's predictable income. The metaverse will not be that. What we're going to create is this free to play model. It puts us in charge of how we want to spend our money, not being required to spend it a certain way to have an experience. And that, combined with the economy of scale, just keeps me up at night. It's what's going to bring power and opportunity to everyone involved, not the people producing, but those of us consuming, like it's never, ever, ever, ever been done before. I could go on and on. I really want to go on and on, but I'm going to stop here. I want to encourage you, please. We're going to go on this journey together. Okay, this is going to be a multi-year journey, but we're going to dive so deeply over the next 7 months through this end of the year. Please make sure you are subscribed to this channel, to YouTube. Make sure you follow. Make sure you have alerts on. Please make sure you comment, because I'm going to take a lot of what I do in upcoming episodes and from the comments and other things I find that people are talking about. So if you want to be a part of this, please, I need you and want you to be here. I appreciate everything. Those of you that are doing great things in the world of the metaverse, in the decentralized efforts, in esports, get out and share what we're going to do here together, because we are going to be a big part of leading the way, all of us together, in having esports successfully make the transition fully into the metaverse. Again, go back and look at my content. I'm not saying live events aren't amazing. They're not going to go away. But we're going to do that together because, again, like I said, we're in the driver's seat. So that concludes episode 1 of Esports in the Metaverse. Again, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here. We'll be doing a different show. This was very overview. Go watch the video, like it, share it, do all those things you know to do. And tomorrow night, we're going to start getting into some more detail. So, love you guys. I appreciate you. You are all the best. And this will do nothing but get better and better and better. And I should go back to one closing statement I used to say all the time. You ready? Here it is. You're in the right place at the right time because we're doing the right thing. I'll see you tomorrow.